stockades numerous, Sam, won't you join me on an instance farming run?
Let me hit the vendor, free up some bank space. Once I repair, I'll be good to go.
World of Warcraft is appealing. Who needs a social life? Strap and Skolo, and you'll be RS. You just dropped my valor helm. How could I roll a 6? Congrats to my guildmate, but I can't believe this shit.
Welcome, everybody, to episode 42 of the Pseudo Nerd Podcast for October 21st, 2016. I am not your podcast host, Josh Kaiser, and joining me in the Broken Isles, the High Priest, Josh Haddix.
Oh, I like what you did there, dude. A big up from what Kaiser's been doing recently.
I mean, or ever. And also joining is myself, Kyle Hoagland of the Black Harvest. And, Alex, what's going on with you? Even though, I mean, I talk to you every damn day, so I mean, this is all just fake banter.
I was about to say, yeah, this is fake. Oh, how have you been? You know, one of
this
those.
Is why I feel like we all should be holding like coffee mugs and just.
Although, not that we have to jump right in. What was your title that you got for doing the whole class order thing?
Netherlord, I believe, which just sounds, it's cool and all, but it sounds like a Guardians of the Galaxy title. So
ain't nothing wrong with that.
No, but I feel like everybody who finishes that thing, that's like their title. Like I always see are like those titles. And
oh, for sure.
It gets a little overplayed, but whatever. Anyway, so on this podcast, we will be discussing World of Warcraft, the current expansion, also known as Legion. We took this day or this week to do this podcast because it just worked out because our fearless leader, Josh Kaiser, he is, for those that obviously are following him on Facebook, you can't get away from the fact that he's in Florida. I think he's, at about 150 pictures and counting.
Hey, it's what happens when you go to the Magic Kingdom, right?
Yeah, he's at Disney World. And whatever MGM or whatever else is down there, whatever. You know, I don't know what they were more excited about, but they're both little kids. I hope they're having a good time. And is he back next week? I forgot to even ask him. Or are we doing it next week by ourselves?
No, he's back. I think he's coming back this Saturday. So
okay. For some reason, I thought he mentioned something about it being 2 weeks that 2 podcasts he might be missing. But I could be.
Unless it's for another reason, which I don't remember. I mean, he'll be back from his vacation, so unless there's something else going on next week, but that I can't be sure about.
So
I'll ask him.
One thing I did want to hit real quick before we start, just because it's very topical at this point, and it just makes me hate the fact that I'm not in Cleveland anymore. But what's the commotion like? What's the discussion as far as with the Indians now heading to the World Series and waiting for the winner of the NLCS?
It's an exciting time in Cleveland, you know. It's an exciting time. Kaiser, of course, down in Florida when it happens because he's a jabroni. But it's. I was talking to Garrett about this on the phone actually earlier, and it's kind of like the Cavs have started this new outlook in Cleveland where you're excited that the Indians made it, but it's not this, oh my God, this is like against all odds type of thing because we're already there. We've already made it.
Right.
So it's good.
It's
good.
cool because Tuesday is officially, that'll be the first game of the World Series. That's going to be in Cleveland. It's also the exact same day of the Cavs who are going to be receiving their rings and they're going to be raising the banner. So Cleveland's going to be hopping on Tuesday for sure.
They're going to be raising the Bruce banner.
I'm glad that maybe some people will get that, but
but yeah, no, it is. Tuesday's going to be a good day. Now, here's the question for you. The game has started. Game 5 of the National League Championship has started. Who do you think wins? It's tied 2-2. I don't even know what the score is right now because we're recording this Thursday night. Who do you think wins? Dodgers the Cubs are up 1-0. So knowing that, bottom of the third. You going with who do you think wins the series? Who do you think is going to be facing the Indians in the World Series?
My heart says the Cubs. I would love to see it. Playoffs have always been about pitching, and I mean that showed totally in the ALCS.
Oh yeah,
we couldn't score runs to save our lives. We were really, like, the first team to hit 3 runs basically was the team that won these games. For the NLCS, I think the Dodgers overall have a better pitching staff, especially with Clayton Kershaw. I think it depends on how much they use him, and I'm not sure if he's pitching today.
Well, no. So Garrett told me they decided to save him for Game 6 or possibly 7.
I would probably say, especially if they lose today, you want to have Kershaw in an elimination game. I think
if the Cubs win today, Kershaw pitches Game 6 to try to get the series tied. I think
so in the end, what happens is it's win or lose. The next game is an elimination game for somebody.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, so that's why you put Kershaw at 6.
So Kershaw, and then if the Dodgers win, I think they save him for Game 7, if needed. Possibly if they win it in 6, then he pitches Game 1 of the World Series. So I think that's the Dodgers, that's their theory. That's their.
So I think their strategy is better. I think the Cubs are overall a better team offensively, but I think the Dodgers have an answer in the form of their pitching to potentially win it. If I'm looking at who I want to see the Indians beat, I want to see the Indians beat the Dodgers more than I want to see them beat the Cubs, is because the Cubs have been my dad's team. It was my team when I was little and really had no opinion about baseball. Until I, grew up and realized that, there's a team in Cleveland called the Indians. But I'm would definitely look forward to a Cubs Indians World Series more than anything.
I think that'd be great. So real quick, I don't want to take up too much time, but I did want to ask you. You sent me a link earlier today, and I did not get a chance to read it. What was the Nintendo news today?
Oh yeah. So today, Nintendo officially announced via their website and on YouTube, there's a video for the Nintendo Switch. It was codenamed Nintendo NX. It was the new console that they were going to be making, and it's a hybrid home console, like handheld. So the whole point of it is, I said I'll put a link of it. I'm sure I'll just retweet it or something like that on our Twitter feed or our Twitter handle at pseudonerdpod. It looks really trippy. Think of it like this: it's a gaming console that you can play like on the couch and stuff, and then you can go up to the console and like pull it out of like a sleeve, and then it becomes it almost looks like a Wii U tablet, sort of a little thinner. It looks like a little bit more modern, and you can literally take it anywhere you want. So you now have a portable home console experience. Because right now for the Wii U, I could pick it up and go maybe to the kitchen and play it on this screen. But at the moment you go like into like a wall or something like that, or go around a wall, you lose that.
So I could be playing a game, pause it, and then take this thing out of the sleeve or whatever, and go to your house and keep playing it. From
what I've seen, yes. Once again, this is just all the teaser from the. We haven't seen video of actual people playing it. It's just it's video of people in the commercial actors
Yes.
playing the game.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it looks like one of the videos, it shows like a woman. By the way, they really don't show any kids. I find that very strange that Nintendo there's no children at all in this thing. It's all like busy 20-somethings. You know what I mean? Like on the go 20-year-olds. But yeah, she was playing Mario on it, and then her friends like are yelling at her from a window to come over to their balcony, like rooftop party or something like that. And she literally just pauses the game and then grabs the tablet and takes it with her to this party.
That is interesting. Oh.
So it'll be very interesting. It comes out in March 2017, and it's gonna be interesting. I'm already gonna give him my money. I'm getting it regardless. But,
well, yes.
So there's no way getting around to that. But I'm looking forward to March for sure. But enough of that. That could be a conversation definitely in the future when it comes out. I'm sure we'll be one of the first to talk about it when it comes out.
Get one of those first reviews in.
That's right. We have to wait for Nintendo's going to give us our early access to it probably in January, obviously.
Yeah.
But once again, this particular episode is Legion, which is the 6th expansion for World of Warcraft. And the first thing I just want to make sure that everyone understands about us is, especially Hedex and I, we are not just like dudes that have just played it for, here and there. Like, we have a very long history of this particular game. Hedex, I'll let you kind of just start first. Just kind of remind everybody who's listening, what your background of this game is.
I don't know if we've gone over this before, so I'll keep it brief. Started playing, game came out late 2004. I am pretty positive that I started playing over Christmas break of, from 2004 into 2005, because I played it in my dorm room, which I was only there for 1 year. So I was playing it early 2005 since vanilla, and have played a lot in between there. And then I've always played, sometimes played often, sometimes, just very casually.
And for me, I've played basically since, 10 days after the release of the game. So that would have been like November of 2004. Mainly on one character that I've been playing for the whole time. I mean, maybe a couple expansions. I played a paladin for a bit, but I've been playing on my warlock basically as my main for 12 years. And it's a line that works all the time at the bars. And it bagged my wife. Bagged. Just make sure I heard that correctly.
Frodo bagged.
Yes, exactly. Thank you.
We did have, for all the viewers out there, you and I, this was mainly when you were still on the East Coast, but we would have some late night WoW after everyone would go to bed. And we would do absolutely pointless things.
The WoW late night hours was definitely among my favorite. When everyone was asleep, it would just be like me and Hedex just being like, we're like night owls. We couldn't fall asleep, so we would just tool around in WoW. But as far as what's going on right now, Legion has been out for just shy of 2 months. I believe it was late August when it came out.
Yep.
And so far, first of all, the hype for this was huge, but a lot of that also has to do with the fact that, as we got towards the end of the expansion before, Warlords of Draenor, it sputtered, and it sputtered hard towards the end of the expansion. So really, anything is exciting at this point.
I think overall, and I'm not saying it was horrible, but overall, I think Warlords, which was the previous expansion, was, and I don't know if this is too strong of a word, but was a disappointment, a little bit of a letdown on content.
No, I think the problem was that you had, I think, a lot of hype for Warlords of Draenor, and I think the big thing that they talked about was they wanted to make sure that by the time you kind of had that feeling of, all right, I can number the things I can start doing, if I wanted to, but the thing that I mainly wanted to do, I've done for a little bit, and so it's kind of like I'm now thinking of reasons to get on WoW instead of being like, oh, I really want to get on because there's something I need to finish.
Yeah. Yep.
that was the problem with Warlords of Draenor, was that they kind of promised that, where they want, instead of having like these gigantic patches and releasing new content, every 6 months, they said that they will work on doing it like every 2 months with, some exciting content, maybe not a raid or like a big dungeon every time, but something that we can sink our teeth into for 2 months.
Yeah.
And it seems like they're, I mean, once again, this is the next patch is coming out next week. So at that point, it's going to be practically 2 months.
Yeah. And what I like about it is I watch a couple, so we're casual. I guess we're semi-casual players. We don't.
I mean, I'll speak for me. I've played way more than I do now.
Oh God, yes. We're not, what we are now is we all have our day jobs, our home lives, and we basically get on at the end of the night. And sometimes even for you, because of the huge time change, you don't get on every night, or at least not for an extended period of time. Because by the time you get on, we're all logged off. But we get on every night, and we raid one night a week for like 2 hours, so nothing serious. 2.5 hours.
Depends on
there was
if
times
our
where
healer needs to go take a nap because he's old man winter.
Yeah. I mean, but there was times where you raided 4 nights a week or something like that, or
at my most, I would raid 4 nights a week, 5 hours a day.
Yeah, see, that's, and so people still do that. That's just not for us, not our style.
I mean, before we were single, we lived with each other, so it was a lot easier to do things like that because we all did the same things. We have our own places. We have wives now, most of us, and it's just one of those things where it's not that we wouldn't love to be able to do that, but I think it's also our careers have put us in places where it's ill-advised to spend that much time playing the game when you probably have other responsibilities to take care of. And obviously you also want to respect the time that your wife wants to have with you. So, it's not like we don't want to be with our wives. But we want to make sure that, it's all about compromise and making sure you're finding that happy medium when you're in your 30s at this point.
Absolutely. But I wanted to jump back on that whole 2 months thing we were talking about. What I like about what's going on right now is there were hardcore raids that cleared Mythic. So the raid that came out with the game was Emerald Nightmare. And there's obviously hardcore raiders out there that I think they cleared. Well, you couldn't raid Mythic. They didn't unlock Mythic raiding for maybe 3 weeks, 4 weeks or something like that. I don't know the exact timeline.
I didn't think they gated that. I thought normal Heroic and Mythic were right at the start. You could not do Mythic right away. You could do normal and Heroic. But you could not do Mythic for a couple weeks. So the hardcore raiders have cleared, they cleared Mythic in like days. And some people were bitching that it was too easy. I feel like Blizzard can never make everyone happy. But what I like is there's a couple streamers that I watch, and they're in, I guess what you would consider raiding guilds. They raid 3 nights, 4 nights a week for multiple hours, and they have not cleared Mythic Emerald Nightmare yet, and we're already getting more content. Like, people that are very serious about this game have not cleared the current content technically, and we're already getting more content. Like, that's like never been done in a while before, I feel like. I think what their ultimate goal was that the like-minded gamers, like for us, it's we're kind of the weekend warrior, even though we don't play on the weekends, but you know what I mean. We play once or twice in a semi-serious fashion. And we hope that by the time 7.1 comes out, we kind of reach where we wanted to as players in this game, and we're looking forward to what's coming up. We don't feel like, oh man, we have to catch up on things. Like we have killed everything except for the last boss in that raid on normal mode, and that's what we are. We're normal difficulty raiders.
Oh, yep, absolutely.
And we're very close to clearing all of it. So even if we don't end up beating it by the time 7.1 comes out, we understand that we're at the point now where there's not a shit ton of things to do in that raid as far as player progression other than doing a couple quests. There's some gear that's decent, but for the most part, we're getting all that stuff in, mythics and, mythic dungeons, which we'll talk about later as well. It's just, the content itself, I feel like is a much better just flow of by the time 7.1 comes out, we're all looking forward to it. We're not like sitting there being like, oh, thank God that this patch came out because I've been spending the last, 3 weeks playing Hearthstone or something.
Yeah, exactly. Oh God, we played so many different games last expansion.
Yeah, tell me about it. I mean, we tried Black Desert Online, and during that time I tried to get you guys to play Blood Bowl, which is, at this point, it's a running joke.
We played a little bit of Hearthstone, a little bit of Heroes of the Storm. Oh yeah, dude, all kinds.
Yeah, we were just trying to keep ourselves busy. But at this point, it's like, if we're really getting into WoW, that's the game to play. And I couldn't even afford to play any other game right now if I felt like I wanted to keep pace. And with the new patch coming up, and then it's just going to be even more. And I'm looking forward to it. I don't feel burnt out. I don't feel hurried. I don't feel like I'm pressured yet that I'm feeling behind. And I think that's what's good. That Mythic Raiders, I think, are feeling like they're getting their content done, in enough time to feel like they're ready for the next phase without feeling stuck or lost or waiting. And the same thing with us. So I think that's that happy medium once again that Blizzard wanted to get, and that's where we're at.
Yep, absolutely.
So as far as that was kind of the hype around Legion. That was kind of that promise that that I think that we can go on about things like class balance and stuff like that. I don't really care too much about that. I think that will just numbers will tweak itself.
Also, there's always going to be people upset about their class's damage and people who are happy. So that'll never be perfect. You know what I mean? There has to be somebody on the bottom, and whoever's on the bottom is going to be mad. So you'll never make everyone happy. You know what I mean? Yeah. Even if it was like a 1 point.
You know what's
difference.
funny? I think you said mad, and I thought you said Matt.
No, mad. No, somebody
there's always going to be someone at
the
the bottom, and that person's always going to be Matt.
No, mad.
Matt, by the way, our friend, he plays a mage, and he bitches about how he doesn't understand why his damage isn't where it's at. He's a good player, though.
He's a good mage.
He's a good mage. But anyway, so the release came out, like I said, back in August, like very end of August.
I think it was literally the last day of August.
Yeah, it was like August 28th, 29th, 30th.
I think it was 30th.
Like
yeah, something like that. Yeah.
And the whole story around this kind of revolves around once again, we're talking about time travel, which is just always a hokey thing for me, but it's always a good, I guess, excuse, or it's a way out of creativity. Is let's take a really bad guy who really he's dead in the main storyline, and let's go in the Warlords of Draenor expansion. We went back in time into another alternate universe, and we were trying to stop Gul'dan from basically taking over Outland and, ripping it asunder again like he did before. And he was pulled into a portal before Archimonde died at the hands of us at the end of the last expansion. And he was sent back into the current arc story. And he's causing a bunch of problems. He's trying to, bring back the Burning Legion. And that's what we're here to do. We're here to stop Gul'dan, and, on the way we're meeting a bunch of new factions and races that you would think that we would have already met by now, but, apparently, they've always been there, but now we're actually meeting them for the first time.
Yes, yeah.
I always found that kind of funny too.
Which, you got to give a little bit of leeway for video games when it comes to that kind of stuff, you know what I mean?
Sure. There's always something that we can just kind of playfully just kind of like sideways smile at
exactly,
some of the ideas and things like that, like a gigantic island that everybody knew was always there, and we're all just like meeting these people for the first time ever. So that's always funny to me. So the level cap now is 110, which already just sounds like a daunting thing to level to, but leveling is hella easy to get to. They brought about a new hero class, which even makes it easier because I think you start at like level 98.
By the time you're out of the starting zone, you're level 100. So,
right. So that's always good. I feel like it's an easy game to get yourself into. Because I know if I told someone to, hey, you should play, I think you'd like WoW, and they asked like, oh, what's the level cap? I said 110. I think the normal gamer would be like, well, that just sounds like a chore.
Yeah.
But honestly, it's not that bad. So let's see here. So the main thing here that we're at right now, I think where everybody is at with this game, as far as the story and everything, is there's a main gated little area called Suramar, which is where Gul'dan is supposedly hiding and is trying to draw power from the Night Well to be able to siphon, back at his bastion to summon more demons and probably ultimately maybe summon Archimonde to this, or Sargeras to this world.
Sargeras, yeah.
So that's where we're at right now. And we haven't even seen Gul'dan much. Like I said, he's in hiding. And we're kind of just in the process right now of cleaning up the Emerald Nightmare, which I'm going to be honest, I've been looking forward to an Emerald Nightmare raid for years. And it kind of bums me out that was the initial kind of warm run of raiding. I don't know. Maybe I'm just like being too mean about that, but I feel like the Emerald Nightmare could have easily by itself been an expansion. And we're taking care of it in a non-tier raid instance.
Yeah, that is true. But I mean,
but no, you're wrong. That's a great start. If they continue to make the content as good as it is now with stories and reasons to stop these bad guys. I mean, Xavius has been a big bad guy in this lore forever, and he's the last boss that we have to kill. And so if that's just the start and we're only going to get better, then I'm fine with it. But I always feel weird that we're going to go from, fighting one of the most influential bad guys ever to then like maybe the next expansion or the next like patch where, beating some no-name person I've never heard of.
Well, I mean, I know exactly what you're saying, but I mean, you got to look at it in the sense of Uldar was a middle raid in Wrath of the Lich King, and we killed an old god or a Void Lord, whatever the hell. I don't know what the fuck.
Right. So the payoff was worth it. I'm not saying that every boss that you fight has to be recognizable, and really even Yogg-Saron wasn't like crazy recognizable. When you put the word old god in it,
yes, exactly,
you're okay with it because that's a big bad person to take down, and it's a difficult thing to kill. So I'm okay with that.
Yeah, and I know what you're saying. And Matt linked me a post on Reddit the other day about, I think it's a little bit of leaked information because the PTR is out for 7.1, so the storyline has gotten out there for what it's worth. And some shit happens in the next patch. To your credit of saying, if Xavius is the first boss, and that means it's going to be that much better. From what I've read, it's going in that direction of getting that much better each time we get a little bit more storyline of what's going on in this expansion.
And I'm also looking forward to, I'm hoping that they don't do what they normally do, unless it's there just for fun, where they just add. The whole thing that always drove me nuts was like having access to a certain part of the world, and then there's like this one area that just fenced off. Like Tanan Jungle was like the main thing last year that like it was always there. We should have always had the ability to go there and do whatever we wanted. We just couldn't. And what they're doing now is that they're taking Suramar, and when they go to the next patch, they're unlocking. They're like, it's almost like the way like questing works now is that once you get to a certain threshold of the story, it kind of remolds itself into the next bit, and which is awesome tech, by the way, that you get to a point of the story where you turn in a certain story, and then it goes to like maybe like a cinematic or a quick little cutscene, and then when you get back to it, all of a sudden everything looks different, and it's because during that time something happened where someone like blew a crater into a certain area, and now that's what the place looks like for you. It might not look that way for other people, but it looks like that for you, which can run you run into problems with trying to help people doing quests and stuff after a while, but it's nice to know that I feel like if that's what they're going to do, where when 7.1 comes out, it still looks exactly the same in all areas, except in Suramar, where you've reached a certain point in the quest. And I think it's supposed to look exactly the same when 7.1 comes out, and then you get like a new quest to start. And then once you either turn that in or do like a small thing for them and turn it back in, all of a sudden everything in that area kind of changes, especially in the city itself, to get us ready for Nighthold.
Yes, I think you're right. And I don't know the exact details because I didn't play PTR or really read into that aspect of it. But yeah, the next expansion or the next patch, I should say, sorry, definitely furthers the storyline in Suramar. So it could be heavily affected by things like that.
And oh man, I had a point and then I just like stared off into something, but the like I said, it's cool that that's where we're heading. And I'm hoping that they kind of give that love to a couple other places, especially in High Mountain, where Neltharion's lair is located. I'm hoping that they hopefully can expand a little bit on that. Because obviously, if we're going to just stay in Suramar the whole time, that just seems like lazy work there too. So I'm hoping that there are things that kind of develop in other parts. And I know there's that one island that we've hardly gone to, like where the Legion right now is kind of at.
Well, there's
I think it's what the Tomb of Sargeras.
Yeah. And Zach was there the other day and said there's just a bunch of high-level elite demons, like named demons, walking around. So, which serve no purpose right now. You know, there's no reason to kill them. They don't give you anything. But that, I'm assuming, is going to lead to something later on. Well, obviously, I don't know if it's been proven or speculated or what, but I mean, we go to the Tomb of Sargeras and fight something. So
I assume at some point we're going to make a return to that place.
Yeah. Yes.
I mean, that could be the Tanan jungle, you know. But once again, there's nothing stopping us from going to that island and probably
we can
just
go
getting
there.
ourselves, shit kicked in. But it's there. You can go there. So as far as the end game right now, and once again, just, predicating that out to everybody again, we're not Mythic Raiders. And I think the reason why a lot of some of the Mythic Raiders, like the bleeding edge ones, a lot of reasons why they finish things really quickly too is that I'm sure they're also on the PTR testing things out as well. Oh, God, so the moment that everything comes out, it's not like this is the first time they've seen the content. So, and they've probably even killed a lot of it in content. So day one of Mythics, they were testing Mythic difficulty in 7.0. And by the time it actually came out, they already had strategies created to get that stuff done. I mean, that makes perfect sense. And once again, a lot of people always seem to ask me, like I consider myself a pretty good player in WoW. I like to think that I'm above average, but to me, it's also like talking to somebody who is pretty good at playing basketball. Like, Haddix, you fancy yourself in your prime. I'm sure you fancied yourself a decent basketball player, I think.
I was an above average basketball player. Yeah. Again,
but when you get to that level of like you and even like the low tier of Division I basketball players, it's a totally different story.
Oh God. Yeah.
So I that's how I compare it to people when I see, I think that the group that we play with, I think we're all sound and pretty decent, and we care, and I think we care enough about our progression and our characters, and to do the right rotations, and doing our roles correctly. And yet, normal difficulty rating is probably about where we sit, which is crazy to think that there's heroic and mythic, players that are blazing through that content.
Now, here's what I think sets us apart. I agree with everything you said. The thing that sets us apart is these people spend like 12 hours a day playing this game, wiping on content, strategizing, doing all that kind of stuff. We play casual. I think you could take a guild that's clearing Mythic and plug one of us into it, and we would maybe not be as good in like a day, but we would be able to hold our own. Now, maybe we'd be the lowest DPS or something like that. But again,
I think we'd be the lowest DPS by a soundful amount.
Yes. But I think I think we're good enough players that we could get things done. You know what I mean? Like we wouldn't just go in there and die. You know what I mean?
I think of it like this though too. If you were to take these mythic players, these guys who are, I mean, they're borderline. I can't even say borderline. They are professional gamers. They are sponsored. Everything, they don't pay to play this game. They get enough traffic through their websites and everything that, they get some sort of monetary compensation for playing this game. Yes. And especially with how, Twitch has taken off and everything else, it's a money grabber for gamers to, especially if you're at that level. In 7.1, when it comes out, if you took those mythic players and just had them just do normal, they clear it all in probably first day.
Oh God, yeah.
But once again, like I'm saying, that's how much better they are than us. Like,
yes, they are better.
They can go in there with our gear and clear that all in one day, no problem.
Yes, they are better than us, and they're better than. There's a reason why the top guild in the world cleared Mythic Emerald Nightmare within 24 hours. That wasn't because they're lucky or just happened to be the first ones in there. It's because they're really, really good. Like I said, there's great guilds out there that still haven't cleared Mythic Emerald Nightmare. So, I mean, and those are good players as well. So they're definitely way better than us.
Yep. So that raid, that's the Emerald Nightmare. That is part of the end game content for WoW. And end game content kind of is a loose term now to be said, because there's a lot of people who don't raid and have the ability to see the content and, I guess, progress their character however they want. And that's kind of going into our next little topic discussion, which is the end game. We already talked a lot about the raids and stuff, and we did talk a little bit about the questing as well. But it's nice to know that one of the things that they definitely focused on is that if you don't raid at all, let's say like you just don't know enough people to get a 10-man together, and maybe going into like the pre-made groups isn't just not your style, and you like to just play with people you know, and you find yourself with like a solid group of 5 people. I think I was very surprised when we first started with everybody who was starting to come back to playing the game. I didn't think that we would be doing 10-mans at all. I figured that what we would be doing is what we're going to be talking about next is mythic difficulty 5-man dungeons. And because I figured that was going to be what we were going to fight for. Like, the gear that drops from there is comparable to the stuff that drops in raids. And that's, once again, it kind of was there in Warlords of Draenor. I feel like it was kind of like a rough draft of that idea. But now that they've kind of combined the challenge dungeon and the original mythic dungeon, it's real exciting, because we can just get on with 5 people and let's use a mythic keystone +4 difficulty dungeon, and that right there is enough stimulation as far as the game is concerned.
Oh yeah, they definitely. Oh man, I feel like they took ideas of Draenor that people liked and added it with parts of their own. Again, another Blizzard game, Diablo, that people liked, which was these keystone rifts that could get harder. They could be as hard as you wanted to a certain point. And they combine those two things, and I feel like that is a hugely popular thing in WoW right now. That is by far probably done the most out of anything.
And it's probably by far the thing that is probably getting us upgraded gear more than anything, raids included.
Oh, for sure. Well, it's like you said, for us to do a raid one night a week, Tuesday night, we have to get 10 people on. We've already multiple weeks had to pug 1-2 people to fill our 10-man raid. Because you could go in with less than 10, but it doesn't get any easier. So you need 10 people basically. But with the Mythic, you just need 5. You need 5 people to be on, which is easy for us. 3-4 of us play all the time anyway. So.
Yep, agreed. So it's a nice, because once again, doing the heroic dungeons, just at this point, we're good enough where heroic dungeons are a snooze fest. That we do the random one because it gives us artifact power, which we'll talk about also in a couple minutes. But really, when we're not raiding and we're working on our daily world quest, once again, talk about that a little later. That's our end game, because we don't raid enough, but that's okay. And that's what makes I love about this expansion, is that Yeah, the looking for raid difficulty, which once again is a snooze fest. It's there for people who just want to see how the story goes. The gear is so, whatever. But it's great that for everybody who has an X amount of time to play the game, there's a solution that you can reach for and still feel like you're getting it done and in actually having progressing your character. And speaking of progressing your character, one of the things that they did away was a very controversial choice. They did away with the standard in most MMOs. You have equipment slots like a pair of pants and spalders, if you will, and and helm and things, and a weapon. Obviously, I think the weapon has always been the most iconic thing that you get. Like, if you get like an awesome drop of like a sword or a staff or something like that. They did away with that completely with this expansion and gave us what's known as our artifact weapons, which is a much more like lore-ish, class-specific weapon, which then obviously we have the ability to transmog and make it look like any weapon we've ever gotten. But that is our way of progressing our character in a sense that like you can get stronger without even getting new gear, because every time you do a quest, you do your order hall tasks that you can send your champions on. Pretty much everything in this game that you can do will net you a certain amount of artifact power, which then you can use to power up your weapon. And in turn, it increases the stats of your weapon, and it also unlocks passive benefits that you get, like, increased damage to your main spells and things like that. Hedex, I was going to ask you, do you miss the feeling of like, oh, I really want to get that new weapon, or does it feel like at this point it's not as exciting anymore and you're glad that the artifact weapon is kind of taken over?
I mean, there was a little bit of God, what's the term? There definitely was I guess like getting any piece of gear, there's always a little bit of excitement of knowing like, oh, I might get an upgrade or I might get an upgrade. But artifact weapons, I think, have been a huge success. You're basically leveling your character beyond, your level 110. So you get to 110, you've gotten all of your stats, all of your abilities. Now you're leveling your weapon, which is still increasing your character's potential. If I just ding 110 with my artifact weapon at a low artifact power compared to somebody who's been playing this game since the day it came out with all the artifact power they've gotten, they're going to do more damage or more healing or be a better tank than me just based on that.
And some people, the other thing that's cool is that, and I don't mean to cut you off, but it's the other thing that's nice about that is that you might get a streak of just being unlucky and not getting new gear for a couple of days or even a couple of weeks. But no matter what, you're still progressing your character in some way, shape, or form with the artifact power. So you're always going to be stronger than you were last week, even if you've gotten no gear.
Yes, exactly. Plus, it adds a little bit of that. It adds a little bit of the RPG back into the game where you're putting points into your weapon, increasing your weapon. Because if you think about it, and again, a lot of elements of this game aren't realistic. Obviously, it's a fake world and all that. But if you were a warrior running around the world trying to save everybody, you're not going to be changing your weapon all the time, especially if you get a badass weapon like the artifact weapons we have. They're very strong weapons. They're not just some jabroni weapon that you pick up and you're just leveling for no reason. Some of them are very important weapons in the lore.
And even to this day, and we're I don't know, I'm sure there's somebody, and there always is, that has their artifact weapon done already. Like, they have all their points put in it.
Oh, I'm sure.
And it's nice to know that that's not something that I would say the normal, and I said I use that term loosely, guys like us, like I'm not done, nowhere near it.
Oh God,
as far as finishing that first artifact. And I play, if you ask my wife, too much. And I'm still, I might be 60% done with it. And it's not, but it's kind of nice to know too that it takes more experience to get those new to get those new traits. But at the same time, you have the ability to increase the amount of artifact power you get. So the progression is still kind of going, maybe after the first 15, 20 traits or, points that you can put in. It does slow down, but I feel like even as it slows down, it's still kind of a similar speed. Like, once every 5 days, I think I probably get a new trait, even at this point. Maybe.
Yeah.
So that's nice too. As long as you're getting that artifact knowledge where it's multiplying that artifact power increase.
It's not too slow that it bothers you, but it's not too fast where you're like, oh, this is pointless. It's good where it's at.
Right. And in the end, the whole point of it is, you might go days, weeks without a significant increase or without like an armor increase. But yet you're still able to improve your character and he's stronger than he was a week ago. So for that, I tip the hat to Blizzard. I think that's a great idea. Whether they stole it from a game or not, I don't know, but
who knows?
So the last thing I also wanted to mention too is that as we talk about artifact power, one of the ways that you can get artifact power is through world quests. And I think world quests has been, I think, the biggest hot button topic of this expansion. It's kind of the daily quest hub, where I think I always compare it to Hearthstone almost, where they give you a new quest every day. And if you don't use it, you can hold on to it and you'll just get a new one that you can do. And then you could do both of them in one day. And then you can store up to 3, just like in Hearthstone. So far it's been fine. I think at this point, we understood that it was going to be a little bit redundant. But it is kind of nice to know that, like, apart from doing the ones you have to get done for faction purposes to get, the item chest to maybe get like an upgrade and something like that. It's also nice to know that if I want to do quests or those world quests that give you gold, there are particular ones that give you gold. There are particular ones that give you artifact power. There are ones particular for your professions. It's nice to know that not all of them just give you the same, 30 gold and you move on. The ones that are for gold is for a substantial amount. And then for the ones for, the other rewards, you have the choices of doing that. At the same time, it also can get a little intimidating because there are so many, like every zone has like 10 of them, which you would think is, more choice is better. But there are times where like you look at it, it does feel a little, I guess, daunting. Yeah.
The completist in some of us is like, I kind of want to do all of these. Although, in WoW's defense, you don't have to do any of them if you don't want. We do them, especially the emissary quest every day. You have to do 4 world quests of a certain type, and you get a chest that could potentially have a legendary in it, gear in it, yada, yada, yada. But you don't have to do that. That doesn't do anything for the storyline. It doesn't, nothing relevant in that case. It obviously has a chance of making your character better, just like running a dungeon would or running a raid would, but you don't have to do it.
But at the same time, those are what people are going to complain about still, is that, it's always it's that old nursery rhyme of, in order for me to be the best, I have to do these things. And obviously, no one's putting a gun to your head to do them. But if you're going to be the best that you can be, you're basically going in and saying, I need to get, I need to have a certain amount of artifact power. I need to make sure that I have enough, your order resources. And if you don't do that, then you are stifling your growth a little bit. And so a lot of people just feel like, I'm getting on and doing chores. But in the end, you're not gonna satisfy everybody. And and right now I would rather take this current way of doing it than flying to different areas and doing the old daily quest where you do the same thing every time. You get a little bit of gold, maybe a little bit of reputation, and then you're kind of on your merry way. This gives you a choice of, especially if you're doing the daily, is, all right, I'm going to go to High Mountain, for example, because High Mountain is the reputation quest I'm doing today, and I can do any of the 11 quests that are there. And maybe today I'm low on gold. I'll do the 2 that are for gold, and I'll do the 2 that are for artifact power, and I'll be on my way.
Yep. And it's a lot better than when I think of having to do chores, that's Draenor, where you got on and you felt like you had to go pick your herbs, you had to go do your mine, which just got you materials that did not advance your character at all. I mean, it might have advanced one of your professions, but it didn't advance your character. That was chores. At least this is, all right, well, I got to go do this, but I'm going to get artifact power. I'm going to get reputation. I'm going to get order hall resources, things that I need to make my character better.
And I think the other daunting thing, too, might just be if you don't play for 3 days, let's just say like you're on vacation, you're in Florida enjoying, MGM Studio with your girlfriend.
MGM.
And you come back and you realize like you only can cap up to 3 quests. So you, in a sense, kind of lost the opportunity to get, to maximize your ability to get everything you wanted. But at the same time, you're also given 3 days. If you don't, that's not a big deal. You can catch up. So that, for that, that's kind of cool as well.
Yep. Yep.
We're getting kind of close to the end of this. I feel like this hour just went like fucking fast. But the other thing I also wanted to talk about real quick was the order halls, which is once again it's Garrisons 2.0. It's like take the things we hated about Garrisons, get rid of them. Take the things that we did enjoy about Garrisons and make it better. Like I said, I think a lot of people weren't huge fans of what seemed like the Facebook game or like the Farmville of World of Warcraft.
Yeah, people hated
having
that.
your mission table after a while just got lame because it's the same things. You got gold, you might have gotten a couple like quest items maybe. And it is starting to get kind of like that again, with some of the stuff. But at the same time, I mean, right now, I haven't finished getting all of my followers to max level and max item level. And some of the things that they drop are, combat pets, items that
Artifact
start quests for dungeons and things like that.
Yep.
So there is still that, I still look forward to seeing what is on the table when I go next time.
Yeah. It again, to what you said about good things about Garrison, bad things. People liked the missions, but there was too many missions, too many followers. So now they're like, all right, well, you'll have 5 followers active at a time. The missions will some of them take a day, some of them take 12 hours, some 4 hours. So again, you're not constantly doing missions. Plus they added the app on your phone now so you can do your missions wherever you're at. You don't have to be in game. They made Garrisons way better than the last expansion. They made class order halls better than the Garrisons of the last expansion.
And it's also cool because it just seems like it's more active because we're sharing them with the same class. And so you see people in there all the time, and that's also cool. There's something. The whole point of the MMO is that the massive massive multiplayer online. And the problem I had with the Garrison is that it just felt like a Scooby-Doo ghost town whenever I was in it. There was nothing lively about it. You had your NPCs every once in a while that might just do a scripted sentence and walk around a bit, but there was nothing interesting about it. What's also interesting right now is, and I think we did talk about it a little bit here, was one thing that Blizzard usually does decent at the very beginning is give a decent amount of raiding content at the beginning. I mean, it's like the Emerald Nightmare. It had 7 bosses, multiple difficulties. They have the world bosses that they just released, for a month ago. And it's good right now. I have every reason to still be skeptical about what it's going to be like, only because it feels like I feel like Cataclysm at the end sputtered off. I feel like Pandaria towards the end was okay. I think Timeless Isle really saved its ass. As far as things to kind of keep yourself busy.
Yeah.
Pet battles helped a lot too. So that was always a plus there. Warlords of Draenor, once again, was just a one big broken promise. And I'm not saying that the questing wasn't great. I'm not saying that
it had its perks.
Having to earn your flying ability wasn't something that I was not okay with. I was fine with it. I was fine knowing that it's nice to know that everybody's on the ground first. It's much more engaging, especially for PvP. And at some point when that part starts to get kind of stale, then you give us back flying. And I think that's fair.
Yep.
So the last thing that we're going to talk about is it's on the horizon. It's coming on Tuesday. Is patch 7.1, where they're going to be releasing a new raid, the Nighthold, where we're going to be continuing the story of Surumar City and the Nightborn, I think that's what they're called. And that's going to be interesting. And also, the thing I'm the most excited about is the return of Karazhan, because it is basically a mega 5-man dungeon. It's easily a dungeon that would take a rating slot. It will take probably 2 hours to get through the entire thing.
Easily.
And from what I've seen, I have seen some videos. I don't care much about spoilers. I like to see what I'm looking forward to seeing. And it looks like you're seeing a lot of the same the same bosses, but they have different abilities. They look much better looking. Obviously the graphics engine has been improved since then. And it's not the same regular entrance. I think you start at the tower instead of in the front gate.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. I think the thing I actually thought was really, really cool was the chess event. It's actually like a fight that you don't control pieces and move things around and stuff like that. You're actually, killing the pieces with your character, and then each piece, like let's say like the knight piece, in chess, knights, you can move 2 up and 1 to either direction.
Yep.
The same thing is with them when they attack. If they'll light up 2 spots in front of them and 1 to the corner, and if you basically get hit by that stuff, you die. I think that's like the whole point, is that like the floor is hot lava type of fight. And that'll be interesting, and I am looking forward to it. Haddix, is there anything that you're looking forward to as far as where you're at right now with your character, and then what's available once 7.1 comes out?
I think I agree with you. I think Karazhan's going to be fun. Just because, again, going back to our play style, we're probably more 5-man oriented, and since it's basically a raid dungeon, that's going to be really cool. It's something that 5 of us could be on one night and spend multiple hours doing, and it'd still be challenging. So I'm looking forward to that a lot.
Yeah, definitely. And I know that the other thing I think people have been kind of complaining about, and I don't think it's a problem because I'm so busy on my main, but this has definitely not been your alt-friendly expansion so far. But at the same time, you've been playing on your druid, and he's actually pretty decked out already.
I'll say there is a catch-up mechanic a little bit for alts. You get your artifact research faster. You don't get artifact power faster, but you do get your artifact research faster to help you kind of catch up a little bit on that. But you definitely can't, unless you're going to spend a lot of hours playing the game, you're not going to have equal characters. My priest is way, way further ahead than my druid. Way further.
Yeah, and that's going to make sense. And I think that's the whole point, is that if whoever you're going to be putting the hours into, they should be, by virtue of just the percent of time you've been putting in, it should be stronger. Yes, by default, yeah. It should be. So then I think that's the whole point of the artifact power too, is that, yeah, you can get lucky, especially if you're playing on a tank. You can get into dungeons a lot quicker. Your gear might be a little bit more readily available, and whatever the case may be. But in the end, your artifact power still has to catch up at some point to your main. So in that point, artifact power alone, all things else being equal, your main's going to be more powerful.
Yes, agreed.
So I think that's going to do it for us here. Let us know what you think so far about this new expansion so far, and also with 7.1 Karazhan Nighthold coming out next week. You can drop us a line on Twitter at pseudonerdpod. We are also on Facebook, and as well at our website pseudonerdpod.com. And next week, I'm going to be completely honest. What the hell are we talking about next week?
Next week is a list. but I don't even want to say that. I can't even remember. I think we might be talking about mid-season football, since it's kind of mid-season.
I think we did talk about that too. So I think right now we'll just throw it out there that we'll be talking about now with like week 8 of the NFL season coming in next week. We'll be talking about what we think is going to be happening moving forward and where we currently are at, and maybe the Browns will have a win at some point in between, but we'll see. I am be honest, I did not do a further home of because they were running out of things, but I do want to remind everybody that from Cleveland, Ohio to San Francisco, California, I think a lot of people forgot what the heck Kaiser keeps talking about every week. I'm Kyle Hoagland. He's Josh Haddix, and we'll see you guys next time.
Have a good Friday.